Welcome to this week's episode of the Compliance Digest, presenting topics on all things compliance related. My name is Alex Krenke, and joining me this week is Kate Lucchesi, one of the account executives at Quest CE. Kate, welcome.
Thank you.
This week we wanted to touch upon a topic that was popular a few weeks ago. It revolved around cheating during exams. Where this story differs is that a few weeks ago we were talking about CE exams, state requirements, and this week we're talking about securities regulatory exams, and a cheating scandal that is a little bit different, but we thought it would be relevant for this audience. And just to start the story, it involves a rep who's been in the industry since 1993. So it's an industry veteran. They know about the cycle for the securities exam, the regulatory element. They've been through it a few times. So there's really no excuse for what we're about to talk about and what exactly happened that led up to this cheating scandal. So Kate, if you could just bring us up to speed on what exactly happened with this individual.
Well, Alex, as many of the viewers know, if a registered person fails to complete the regulatory element within a certain time period, there are negative consequences. In this particular case, we have a registered representative who not only failed to meet his supervisory principal S201 regulatory requirements and became inactive in this registration, but in his journey to meet the S106 Series 6 regulatory element program, the pressure was on. The rep took the exam 3 times unsuccessfully within a 15-day period and was attempting to take the exam for the 4th time about a week after his last unsuccessful exam. It's important to note that a registered person only has 120 days from their anniversary date to complete their regulatory element requirement. This triggers the clock to start, and as a professional, you want to make sure you meet this deadline.
I think there's an interesting dichotomy here. While most people take the initial securities exam very seriously, they study for weeks, oftentimes months, they get all the materials together. There's sort of this weird disconnect when it comes to the regulatory element. At times, people don't always get the study materials together, and they don't really realize some of the consequences associated with not passing this exam or not meeting the deadlines. If you could just remind our audience, what are the consequences?
Alex, this brings up a great question. So what does this mean for the registered rep? Well, for one, you will want to meet these important deadlines. Like we said before, a registered rep will be deemed inactive and prohibited from engaging in or being compensated for activities requiring securities registration. You can imagine how this would impact not only the registered rep, but also the company he or she works for. In this particular case, the registered rep was attempting to meet his requirement, but struggling quite a bit to be proficient in all 4 modules that are part of the S106 program exam. A rep must be proficient in all 4 modules to meet the regulatory element requirement.
Okay, so let's go back to the story. Let's talk about what happened the day of the exam. So the rep goes in. They start taking the exam. It's at a Prometric testing center. One of the Prometric people on site is walking around as they do, and they notice that one of these individuals who's taking the test keeps looking down at the wrist. Upon further investigation, they notice that there's actually writing on the wrist, which it's pretty obvious that that's in clear violation of the rules, more specifically Rule 2010. So the guy gets caught. What happens?
Well, I'm happy you brought this up because the consequences FINRA imposes on registered reps are serious. The registered rep was barred from association with all FINRA members in all capacities. This goes to show that FINRA and the testing centers such as Prometric and Pearson VUE do not take cheating lightly. This is a very serious offense that both testing centers and FINRA have rules against. Specifically, FINRA's Test Center Rules of Conduct Rule Number 2 states that you must not take or attempt to take any personal items, including but not limited to notes, formulas, study materials, or electronic devices into the testing room. And before attempting to take the exam for the fourth time, this particular registered rep acknowledged and agreed to follow the FINRA Testing Center rules of conduct. Like I said earlier, FINRA barred this individual from association with all FINRA members and in all capacities. This is a serious offense that was committed.
It really is, and I think just to, again, put some emphasis on that, at these testing centers, they really do check for cheaters out there. So I think the best thing that the compliance department can do is just to make sure that your reps are prepared when they're going into the exam so they don't have to resort to something like cheating. So if you are in the compliance department right now, just be aware of when your reps have a regulatory element exam coming up, know their schedule, and then know that they're prepared for the exam so that an incident like this doesn't happen to one of your reps, because the consequences, as you said, Kate, are very serious. I want to thank Kate for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. And we will see you again next week for another episode of the Compliance Digest.